boundaries are important. They're always going to be important, and they're personal. But I think some of us are, on the other end, potentially oversetting boundaries. It's like, no, you can't get a hold of me ever. It's like, well, that's probably not realistic either. Or maybe you're not willing to deal with the repercussions of that. That's a different conversation.
Where are you in your goals and dreams? The more you achieve your goals and dreams, the more you achieve success, the more there is responsibility that comes with it, and you have to, more is expected of you. More is expected of us.
Next Level Nation, welcome back to another very special, as always, episode of Next Level University, where we teach you how to level up your life, your love, your health, and your wealth. We hope you enjoyed our latest episode. It was episode number 1313. Are you listening to the right people? Today, for episode number 1314, what boundary do you need to set the most right now? We were on our other media meeting with the wonderful Laura the other day. And on this meeting, we were talking about how many shows is Kev on? How many shows do we want Kev to be on? What's the right number? We were doing, at one point, way too many. It was like 15 shows a week. Then when I was traveling and during the event prep, it went down to maybe 2 or 3 shows a week. We're trying to figure out what the right number is. And in these meetings, as designed, Alan often puts on his coach hat and his consultant hat. And he's like, all right, how do we want to have this happen? We have to do this. Cool. And he said, Kev, what do you think? He's like, hear me out. What if you open your calendar on Saturday? You know, you have Sunday with Taryn, just open your calendar on Saturday, you know, maybe work till like 5, 6. And I was like, okay. And he's like, then like, you know, Thursday night, I'll be a date night. So just open your calendar on Saturday. And I was like, Alan, I understand what you're getting at here, but I don't think you understand the dynamics of my relationship quite yet at the level that I do, and I need to put up a hard boundary. I can't do that. Just not sustainable. It will not go well for my relationship because I'm already only seeing Taryn maybe one night a week and then, you know, 2 nights on the weekend. So I'm trying to make sure I have that, not balance, but I'm trying to make sure I'm pouring into each bucket at the right rate. And I had to set a hard boundary with Alan. Now, again, we do that so often and it's not a big deal, and he understands, and he's like, yeah, no, I just had to push and see. You know, I got to push the button and see what sticks and what doesn't. But that was, and I guess the theme of right now for me is that it's like I need to honor my calendar. I need to honor my boundaries around time. I don't want to do calls. I do 2 calls a week, technically every other week at 9 a.m. 2 clients. It's the only 2 calls I do before 10 a.m. And it's because they're long-term clients and they already have that slot. And I figured, you know what? It's not worth rearranging that. But I also, my calendar is from 10 a.m. till 6 p.m. But the team call goes till 7. You know, there's things that go past that. So I told Alan, I said, anything that's not team related or already, it's something we've been doing for a long period of time, I can't be doing this 7:30, 8 o'clock stuff because my relationship's going to burn to the ground. And then here's the other thing. My fitness is going to burn to the ground because I'm not going to get up on time. And it's this whole thing that happens based on this one thing. So I need to set a boundary around that. I think we all have opportunities or we all have seasons where certain boundaries are the most important. If you have a big test coming up, the boundary is, hey, can you not ask me to go out on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday because you know I'm going to get the pull to go out and I have to stay and study. Or, hey, I'm in a very busy season at work right now as a dream chaser. I know it's summer and I know everybody's going to the beach and stuff, but when you ask me, it's really hard for me to turn that down. I need to set a boundary around that right now. I think every season, every reason has a different boundary. And if you can understand what your unique boundary is right now, I think you're probably more likely to be successful with it.
So I want to go down an interesting road here, and hopefully it'll bring us back to the original point of this episode. I do believe it will. When you're really young, you don't need a ton of boundaries. And as a matter of fact, you don't really like them. Did you have a bedtime growing up?
I don't know. Maybe. I don't remember.
Okay. I remember I used to sleep over at my buddy's house, and my mom, when I came home, she would get really frustrated because they didn't have a lot of boundaries. It would stay up as late as you want, so I would stay up late. We'd eat nachos and watch movies in the basement, this whole thing. And then I would come home and there would be boundaries again, and I would be rebelling against the boundaries, which I think is probably a trend in my life. But when we're young, I remember when I was in middle school and high school, I would always hear these older people who I thought were wiser, and in some cases I guess they were, but in some cases they definitely weren't. They would say, these are the best years of your life. And I know what they were trying to say, but I remember I used to think like, God, I hope not. And the reason why is because when you're young, you don't really know that much. You don't really have a lot of authority. You don't have a car yet. You don't have a ton of responsibility, but you also don't have a ton of control over your own life. You don't get to pick where you go to school. You don't get to pick where you live. You don't get to pick, the town you grow up in. You don't get to pick what car you want yet because you only have a $3,000 budget or whatever. I don't know what your first car was, Kev, but mine was
$1,000. It was a 1995 Mustang. Not GT, just a Mustang. Real piece of crap. Had 144,000 miles on it. I bought a $500 sound system. I bought a sound system that was more valuable than the entire car. So.
And that tells us what we need to know about Kev.
Yep.
Back in the day. Jacked with a Mustang and a nice sound system. Awesome all-star baseball player. So he had it figured out, I think. But, okay. How does this circle back to boundaries? When you're a kid, you don't really get to set your own boundaries. And then I remember I went to college and there was all of these kids that had deep boundaries, and I grew up in an environment where there wasn't a ton of boundaries. There was a bedtime, but my mom gave me a ton of freedom, almost too much to an extent, right? She had me, she let me make my own choices, make my own mistakes, fail forward, which I still am grateful for today, but also, it was risky game. So anyways, I get to college and some of these kids had these strict households where my house, my rules, you eat dinner at 5, you go to bed at 9, strict. And they went off the rails in college because they weren't allowed to frolic and carefree wander back in high school, whereas I was allowed to do some of that, partying and XYZ. So anyways, fast forward, we're adults, and we're telling these kids, these are the best years of your life. I'm certainly not saying that because I don't think that's true. I think that your life will improve if you improve. Obviously, I believe that. This is Next Level University. But when it comes to the boundaries, when you're an adult, you have to be, the more responsibility you have, this is the frame, very simple. The bigger your goals are, the more responsibility you'll have to take. The more responsibility you have to take, the more boundaries you have to set. And when you were talking, Kev, I had this moment where it's like, you and I, even before this episode, Kevin's, he sat me down and talked to me. No, he talked about how we used to, he's like, I miss you, man. And I was like, oh, what do you mean? Like, because I see you every day. He's like, no, in person, when we used to just hang out, and it's so funny. Waste time. Yeah, you were being playful with it, but the truth is we don't really, we have very serious relationships now. We have a business and we have a team and we have responsibilities and we have our fur babies. You have 2 cats and I have a cat and a dog, and we have these responsibilities and we have big goals and we have all these things. So what Kevin was really saying in a way is there's a part of me that misses having no boundaries when we used to be able to go off the rails and stay up till 2 a.m. having deep conversations about life and live in Florida for a month with a mentor and put plane tickets on a credit card and fly across the country for 2 weeks, at Brendan Burchard events and interviewing people all across the California coast. That was all awesome and that was fun. First of all, we can't do that anymore. I shouldn't say we can't. We can, we shouldn't. It's no longer optimal. So to bring this back to the listener, what level of boundaries do you actually want? And what level of boundaries do you need to achieve your goals? And are those mismatched? Because if they're matched up, you're going to feel really good. If they're not, you're not. And I think a lot of people want no boundaries. They want to frolic. They want carefree wandering. But yet they also want to achieve really big goals. And I think those two don't go hand in hand.
I had a thought when you were speaking. The amount of direction you desire determines how many boundaries you need to put up. If you're somebody who wants to have a ton of direction, If you have a ton of direction, I want to end up at this place at this time, you have to set the most boundaries because you being pulled off of course is way more valuable. And again, not intrinsically, but if I'm just cool with, I mean, think of it this way. When I was working at my old job back in the day, I was perfectly cool hanging out all day, smoking weed and playing video games. So if somebody came over, it's like, hey, do you want to smoke weed and play video games? Okay, cool, let's do it. You're not wrecking my day, right? You're not wrecking my day at all. And
dinner with me. I can't cancel that again.
But now it's like every minute matters a little bit more than it ever did before. When we get to the next level of success, every minute will matter a little bit more. So the boundaries have to stay tighter and tighter and tighter. But the goal in this episode really is, okay, maybe you're just starting to understand, wow, I am not strong when it comes to setting boundaries. First of all, you're not alone. Second of all, this is common. This is, as Alan says, this is not a you problem. This is a people problem. This is just how it works.
Definitely.
So maybe for you, where you need to set a boundary right now is I need to be aware of how when my family comes over, things go off the rails. Or when a friend texts me, I just drop everything I'm doing to make sure I'm there for them. Oh, interesting. I need to figure out what does that mean first? And then how does it even feel for me to desire setting a boundary? I don't want it to be, when you get done this episode, I want you to text everybody and say, yo, leave me alone. I'm studying. That's probably not it. It's probably, what do you need to become aware of when it comes to boundaries? And I think that's got to be the first step, especially if you're somebody who struggles with setting them. I think that's part one. We did a meetup on all about boundaries, and one of the things we talked about was, how does setting boundaries make you feel? Why are you smiling at me?
Because I'm happy.
Oh, cool.
And also, I had a really good breakthrough thought, and you hammered part one, which is your subliminal message to me of like, I'm still going. It's good. It's good.
Honestly, I was staring into the camera. Sometimes I just look at the camera and I can't even see you. You could get up and leave. Sometimes I might not even know it. I might just keep going. Other times, if you got up and left, everything would go off the rails.
For sure.
It's happened.
You keep going, man. You do you. I'm here for you. I support you.
Part one, now I've forgotten everything I was going to say. All the value has probably slipped away into the ethos. No.
You can come. You got it back. You got it.
I'm just kidding. I'm in the zone. I'm in a place right now. I feel good. I'm also happy. I'm also very happy. It's been a great Tuesday or whatever it is.
Perfect.
Hi everyone, my name is Amanda. I am a dental hygienist and a mom of 2 teenagers. I was first introduced to Kevin and Alan about 3 years ago. So that led me to book a consultation with Alan, and I showed up to that call in the lowest spot that I have been at in my entire life. He is a good human that genuinely wants the best in your life, your future, your love, your relationships, your wealth, and you have the chance to be in the same room or on the same call or have these two in your life in any way, then you are blessed.
So we talked about this on the meetup. What does setting boundaries feel like to you? For some of us, we get guilty because it's like, you know what? I had that moment of like, Alan, I'm going to hurt Alan's feelings when I say, dude, I think you're missing the mark, man. I'm not. No, I'm not going to open up my calendar to work till 6 o'clock on Saturday. I'm going to end up a single man if that happens. I'm already not
I suggested 5 o'clock.
You suggested 5 o'clock. Thank you for that extra hour on Saturday.
You're welcome, sir.
But I don't know. I think it depends on like the amount that somebody does not recognize your boundary also determines how much you have to push back on it. That's another interesting thing is like you and I have had this conversation before, not to that degree, but I was very like, Alan, come on, man. That ain't the answer. I'm telling you, I need to work less than I'm working, not more spread out over more days. So again, Alan's trying to bring us to the level of success that we both desire, and I'm fighting it feverishly. I won't do it.
Feverishly. Well, the backstory underneath that very quickly is Kevin, you used to do 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Or I think 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. at one point.
It was basically whenever you told me to work. Like what time? You're like, 9 to 7 is good. It's like, isn't that like It's a lot of hours. Getting up at
It's
4.
a lot of hours. Getting up at 4. So the fact that you and I want to make this clear too, this is very important. Kevin and I didn't start out saying, I won't do a call before 10.
No.
That's a huge mistake. I often talk about how NLU is a toddler. What I mean by that is we are 6 years in. So
Little
we're 6
Jeff.
years old. Yeah.
Little Jeffrey.
It's a little Jeff toddler. And the little toddler is more capable than when we were just an infant. When we were 2 years in, Hyperconscious podcast, cartoon avatar, we were a little infant. We didn't have a big team, right? All right, now we're a toddler and more is expected of us. But we also need more boundaries. And so to bring it back to the original analogy here, where are you in, and maybe you don't own a business, so maybe that's not the analogy, but where are you in your goals and dreams? The more you achieve your goals and dreams, the more you achieve success, the more there is responsibility that comes with it. And you have to, more is expected of you. More is expected of us. So we can't, at the beginning, can you imagine? I'm not doing a call before 10 a.m. I'm working 10 to 6 and nothing else. That would never have worked.
I remember when I lived in, before we moved up here, I was doing like 7 a.m.s on Saturday. I remember that. It's like, what time do you need to talk? Anytime. Like, what do you need? Like, well, I'm going on vacation, so it'd have to be early Saturday. Get to name a time. Anytime. I'm in. Like 7 a.m., I'm there for it.
Those are the low self-worth days. But those are also the grind days.
I think that's part of it is like some of us, again, boundaries are important. They're always going to be important and they're personal. But I think some of us are, on the other end, potentially oversetting boundaries.
Definitely.
It's like, no, you can't get a hold of me ever. It's like, well, that's probably not realistic either. Mm-hmm. Or maybe you're not willing to deal with the repercussions of that. That's a different conversation.
Particularly when it comes to success, right? It's like, well, I want to tell my boss I'm only coming in from 11 to 3. It's like, listen, that's a quick way to get fired.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember, and I'll tell this story briefly, when I was in corporate, I did have flex hours, and there was a lot of other people in the office that were really bothered by that because I would roll in at 11 and I would leave at 3. But what they didn't know is that my sales numbers were higher than everyone else's, and that I got... I made a case for why it would make me more productive.
Of course. To play Call of Duty for 3 hours a day.
A little Call of Duty behind the scenes. But I did make a case for why it would make me more productive because I was sitting in so much traffic. During 9 to 5, I was sitting in all this traffic. So anyways, the point is that some people are overly setting boundaries. I don't think that tends to be our demographic. So we're going to talk about underly setting boundaries as if underly is a word. Yeah. Last thing. Emilia and I want to hit 10 to 6. That's the goal. So we've been doing 11 to 7. So 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. We want to get in bed by 11, wake up by 7. That ends up being sometimes midnight to 8 or whatever.
Or 10:15.
Or 10:15.
Depending on the internal clock system. Just for context. I was literally in StreamYard the other day, and I texted Alan. I was like, hey, man, ready to record in StreamYard. And he texted me at like 10. It was 11 minutes past 10. He's like, holy S, man. How did I sleep this long? Like, I don't know,
sent you
man.
a screenshot of my Oura ring, like 11 hours in bed, man. Yeah,
but again,
it's called burnout.
Hey, sometimes you need
not
that.
having boundaries.
Sometimes you need that. Sorry, I interrupted you.
No, it's all good. So Emilia and I want to do 10 to 6. That's the goal. Spring's coming. Summer's coming. She likes to be up early in the morning. It's awesome. Okay. I'm not as big of a fan of the morning, but she wants to do that. So I was like, okay, shoot for 10. She's like, we're measuring the wrong metric. I was like, okay, what do you mean? She's like, we need to cut work at 7 if we want to be in bed by 10 because we go to the gym in the evening. I was like, and we want to eat. We want to spend quality time, right? Okay, it's been working. And by been working, it's been like 3 days. But the point is that she set a boundary there. And she said, let's cut work by 7. Now, here's the thing about boundaries. Life happens, and you have to be adaptable. So she said, my last meeting today ends at 7:30. And here I am like, don't worry, I got my new computer. I want to set that up. So awesome. I'm going to work till 7:30 too. 7:30 also. Not 7:32. But set more boundaries. Set more boundaries. This is a funny one, man. I'm in a great mood.
Same.
Kev, for each episode. Go ahead.
This is it for me. I have this, and then I think I have a podcast pre-call after this, and then I'm done. for the day.
I got a coaching call after this, which I'm actually super pumped for. And then after that, I want to set up my computer. But set boundaries.
Yeah. No, we got that.
Make sure that we got that. Make sure the boundaries are something that you can adapt with and flex with. The boundary can't be inflexible. It has to have a little bit of flex. Now, if Amelia was like, well, my last call ends at 9, then I would probably be like, babe, we just talked about 7, right? But 7:30, all good. Now, 7:30 eventually becomes 8, 8 becomes 8:30. Right. Then you got to dial it back, and you got to reset the boundary. So it's the line in the sand. Where is your line in the sand, and where does it need to be for you to achieve your goals? And I think that that's a good place to end.
Well said. If you are listening to this and you find value in what I say, maybe what Alan says, but probably more what I say, totally cool. No worries at all. No stress at all. If you would be kind enough to subscribe to our show on whatever platform you listen on, that would be wonderful. We would appreciate that very much. And I'm actually, easy. Alan's about to spit his water out all over his old crappy laptop. I'm actually tracking the number of subscribers we have. So that is another number I am tracking. And if you follow us, I'll know it. And we'd appreciate it very much.
Yes. Thank you. I almost spilled on the laptop. Derek would be very upset by that because I'm donating this laptop to Derek.
Oh,
so
see,
shout out to you, Derek. If
I knew that, but I didn't know that. I wouldn't have tried to make you giggle on it if I was fully aware.
Derek would be very upset with you.
All right, you have 3 minutes.
I have 3 minutes.
Yeah, we got to
Okay. If you do not follow Kevin or myself on social media, we want to connect with you. We use Instagram, we use Facebook, and we use LinkedIn. DM us on one of those platforms. Say, hey, my name is so-and-so. I'm a listener of the Next Level University podcast. We just want to connect with listeners. That's it. We're not asking anything of you. We just want to connect with you. We want to get to know you. Getting to know you helps us help you. So please reach out.
Next Level Nation tomorrow for episode number 1315. Are you making your growth too complicated? I'm actually very excited about that one. And it's a Sunday episode. Sunday fun day. Monday Eve. Oh, you're getting ready for your sign off over there. Mm-hmm. As always, we love you. We appreciate you. Grateful for each and every one of you. And at NLU, we do not have fans. We have family. We will talk to you all tomorrow.
Set those boundaries. Next Level Nation.